Good morning, children. Today we are going to read an episode from the biography of The Lady with the Lamp, Florence Nightingale. Let's get to know more about this great lady who paved the way for the heroic work of nurses today. This chapter is about a little girl named Meenal, whose mother was admitted in the hospital for almost a week. As weakness still prevailed, a nurse named Rinny was appointed to take care of her at home. Rinny took good care of Meenal's mother, and in no time she mingled with the whole family too. Soon it was time for Rinny to leave, as Meenal's mother had recovered fully. Meenal often watched Rinny taking care of her mother. One day, she told her mother that she wanted to become a nurse like Rinny. Her mother told her to go through the life of Florence Nightingale and then decide what to do. Children, Florence Nightingale was a woman who was so driven by compassion that she refused all the pleasures of a luxurious life and devoted her life for the service of the sick and the wounded. Her efforts not only saved several lives and comforted numerous in pain and distress, but also brought a worldwide revolutionary change in the way the health services are addressed. Florence Nightingale was born in Florence, Italy on the 12th of May 1820 and was named after her place of birth. She was brought up in Derbyshire, where she spent her summers, and Hampshire, where she spent her winters. At the time when Florence was born, many girls did not receive any kind of education. Florence was very lucky because her father, William Nightingale, believed that all women should receive education. He himself was a teacher. He educated all his children. Florence was born in a very wealthy family. Rich girls had a very comfortable life at that time. As Florence grew up, she did not feel happy living a life that did not have much of a purpose. She grew up to be a very kind-hearted lady and was always keen to help those in need. Soon she realized the purpose of her life. At the age of 16, she believed she was called into service by God to do something towards lifting the load of sufferings from the helpless and miserable. Florence requested her parents to allow her to become a nurse. They were shocked to hear this. Nursing was a looked-down profession at that time. It was not thought to be a suitable profession for a wealthy and well-educated woman. Also, the environment of the hospitals was very unhygienic. Hospitals did not even have the basic amenities. The treatment rendered was not up to the mark, and doctors performed surgeries without anesthesia. People who went to hospitals mostly did not come back alive. As time passed, Florence Nightingale's inclination towards nursing the sick and the needy became stronger. She even refused to a marriage proposal after almost 6 years of thought. She felt a compelling call for the service of the sick. After nursing her critical grandmother back to life, Florence had no doubt about what she wanted from life. She rebelled against everyone who was against her wishes. Her parents finally surrendered to her aspirations. In 1844, Florence enrolled herself for a 3-month nursing course in Germany. She worked hard to educate herself in the art and science of nursing. Life moved on as young Florence became more and more involved in her call of service. She rejected all the worldly pleasures that could have obstructed her path. In 1853, she became the superintendent of a London charity supported institution for the sick in distressed circumstances. The profession proved challenging. Soon there was a cholera outbreak, and due to the insanitary conditions, the disease spread widely. Florence made it her mission to improve the hygiene practices. She did not only attend the sick but worked personally to ensure cleanliness and hygiene, significantly lowering the death rate at the hospital. In October 1853, the Crimean War broke out. The British Empire was at war against the Russian Empire for control of the Ottoman Empire. Thousands of soldiers were sent to the Black Sea, where supplies quickly dwindled. By 1854, not less than 18,000 soldiers had been admitted in military hospitals. It was a time when there were no female nurses stationed at hospitals in the Crimea. The war officers avoided hiring female nurses due to their poor reputation. However, after the Battle of Alma, England badly needed to take care of their ill and injured soldiers. They were not just suffering because of the lack of sufficient medical attention, as the hospitals barely had doctors and nurses to take care of them, but also because the hospitals were in an extremely awful condition. A healthy man admitted to such a hospital could die of infection, let alone the injured soldiers who were already in pain and distress. In late 1854, Florence received a letter from the Secretary of War. She quickly collected a team of 38 nurses from all religious orders and sailed to the Crimea within a few days. Many of the wounded were unwashed and were sleeping in overcrowded, dirty rooms without blankets and decent food. In these conditions, diseases like cholera and dysentery spread widely. What waited at the war hospital at Constantinople was beyond imagination. The hospital sat on top of a large open drain. It contaminated the water and the hospital building itself. Patients lay on their own excreta on stretchers. Rodents and bugs roamed freely. Florence immediately, with the team, got down to work, cleaned up the whole place, and took good care of the sick and the injured soldiers. She went through the dark hallways with a lamp to attend to every patient herself. They were very touched by her compassion. They called her the Lady with the Lamp. She was rewarded for her services, and a cash prize of £250,000 was given to her by the British government. Nightingale used the money to set up St. Thomas Hospital and the Nightingale Training School for nurses within it. Now, nursing was regarded as an honorable profession, even by the upper class. She continued to work from bed even when she was ill and wrote notes for the improvement of conditions in civilian hospitals. In 1908, she was conferred the Order of Merit by King Edward. Nightingale died in 1910 at the age of 90 in London. Children, nursing is an art. And if it is to be made an art, it requires an exclusive devotion, the finest of fine arts. Meanings of a few words are already there in the text. Here are meanings of a few more words for your understanding. Round the clock, all day and all night. Good articles, a piece of writing, especially in a newspaper or magazine. Recovered, to return to normal state of health. Upper class, a social group that has the highest status in the society. Dark hallways, a long passage in a building with doors into rooms on both sides. Laundry, a room in a house or hotel or an institution where clothes and linen are washed and ironed. Reforms, make changes in order to improve something. Honorable, respectable. Profession, an occupation that involves prolonged training and a formal qualification. Let's read the chapter. Meenal hugged her mother tightly with tears in her eyes. Mama, I missed you so much when you were in the hospital for a whole week. Thank God you're back home. I'll never trouble you all my life. Tara looked pale as she held Meenal. She smiled weakly. Even I wanted to be back home as early as possible. But, dear, my treatment took a long time. The doctor said that I needed a lot of care to recover at home. Of course, Rinny, my nurse, will be here for some days. Meenal looked at Rinny and said, Hi. Rinny gave an affectionate pat on her back. Hello, I'm here to keep your mama company. You're welcome. Gagan, Meenal's father, entered with the bags. I'm sure you'll be fit again within a few days. Yes, shouted Meenal. The next 10 days flew by. Rinny took very good care of Tara. She would attend to her round the clock. She made sure that Tara took a proper diet. She gave her medicines on time, helped her move around slowly, took down the temperature and gave injections as prescribed. Rinny would give a detailed update to the physician when he paid a visit every alternate day. Meenal and her dad would also help. But Rinny was a superwoman. She was very efficient and caring. She would also read out good articles and stories to Tara. They shared many moments of laughter. The day Rinny was to leave, Tara said, I am so thankful to you. I wouldn't have recovered so fast but for your care. You have brought back smiles to my family. Rinny waved goodbye and said, I'll miss you all. Keep in touch. Meenal whispered to her mother at night, I will become a nurse like Rinny auntie when I grow up. Tara looked at her for a while and said, Then you must read about Florence Nightingale before you make up your mind. Anyway, we'll talk about it tomorrow. The next morning, being a Sunday, everyone was relaxed. After a hearty breakfast, Meenal ran to her mother. Who is Florence Nightingale? Where does she live these days? She said. Tara went to the bookshelf and pulled out a biography of Florence Nightingale. Meenal sat down on a chair and began to read. Florence Nightingale was born on 12 May 1820 in Florence, Italy, in a rich upper-class British family. She was named after the city of her birth. From a very young age, she was involved in looking after the ill and the poor people in the village, close to her father's estate. When Nightingale was 16 years old, she decided to take up nursing and spoke to her family about it. Her parents were completely against it. They wanted her to get married. Moreover, nursing was not considered a respectable job, especially for a woman in those days. But she refused to get married. She was against the expected role for a woman of her nature to become a wife and a mother. Nightingale believed that God wanted her to work for the sick and the deprived. She went to Germany for a 3-month nurse training course. After finishing the course, Nightingale took up a nursing job in London. Later, within a year, she was promoted as the superintendent of the hospital. In October 1853, the Crimean War broke out. The British Empire was at war with the Russian Empire. Many soldiers died or were injured. Nightingale gathered 38 nurses and went to Crimea. When they arrived at the British hospital, they were shocked to see the unhygienic conditions there. Many soldiers were dying because of infectious diseases like typhoid and cholera, apart from injuries. She got down to work. All the nurses worked together and cleaned up the place. They took good care of the sick and the injured soldiers. Florence Nightingale spent long hours taking care of the patients. She went down the dark hallways with a lamp and attended to every patient herself. They were touched and felt comforted by her compassion. They called her the Lady with the Lamp. Nightingale started a special kitchen where food for patients was prepared. She also established a laundry to provide the patients with clean sheets and clothes. A classroom and a library were also set up for them. Meanwhile, she wrote notes and reports about the need for reforms in other military hospitals. When the war was over, Florence Nightingale returned to her childhood home at Lea Hurst. People welcomed her warmly. The Queen rewarded her by presenting a special engraved brooch to her that was called the Nightingale Jewel and a prize of £250,000 from the British government. Nightingale used the money to set up St. Thomas Hospital and the Nightingale Training School for nurses within it. Now, nursing was regarded as an honourable profession, even by the upper class. Nightingale took ill by the time she was 38. However, she continued to work from her bed and wrote notes for the improvement of the condition in civilian hospitals. In 1908, she was conferred the Order of Merit by King Edward. Nightingale died in 1910 at the age of 90 in London. Meenal put down the book and stared at the picture of Florence Nightingale. Tara came to her. "So, what do you think now?" Meenal said in a determined voice. "I know it's difficult, but I still want to become a nurse like Florence Nightingale." Tara put the book back on the shelf and said, "Good." Children, in the second last para, it is mentioned that Florence Nightingale was conferred the Order of Merit by King Edward. Now, what is this Order of Merit? An Order of Merit is an award given to someone for notable work in the armed forces, science, art, literature, or for the promotion of culture. Hope you all loved listening to the story and work of the Lady with the Lamp, Florence Nightingale. Thank you.